Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah McCoy, and I am today's host for our holiday happy hour. We're talking about In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren. And I am now going to bring on our bookstore friends at Bookmarks, Beth and Kate, who are going to do a little introduction for us. Welcome. Okay, I think we're having a little bit, we're waiting for the girls to come on. Beth, calling Beth. Come on, Beth. See if we can channel her together. Everyone put your Zoom crowdcast faces on. Let's channel Beth here. Yay, it worked. The magic of the holidays.
Hey.
Do we have you, Beth? Oh, there you go.
Hi. Text us so we know. Happy to be here, Sarah, for being and to introduce you. She's the of many tables, which we and the favorites. And seeing today's conversation. That puppy on her lap there, maybe sleeping. So I am Beth Superbus. I'm our interim program director here at Bookmarks. This is Kate, our retail manager, and we are the facilitators of the Romance Book Club here at Bookmarks. And if this is your first time coming to a Bookmarks event, Bookmarks is a literary arts nonprofit in downtown Winston-Salem. We have a nonprofit independent bookstore and gathering space where we host in-person events. We love romance at Bookmarks. When we first opened, we didn't have a romance section, which now seems like such a sad thing. But we hosted our first in-store romance event about a year ago, and last Valentine's Day in February, we hosted an in-person romance book club kickoff. And then we had COVID. So we have moved the book club online to a virtual book club and have had so much fun connecting with romance readers and romance authors every month. So each month we talk about a different book, and we've been lucky to feature those authors every month with us. We would love for you to join our book club. If you haven't already, I'm going to drop the link in the chat box so you can learn more. But in November, we are going to feature Tracy Livesay on November 23rd. We're going to be talking about Like Lovers Do. And then on 12/17, we're going to talk about another holiday story, Mistletoe and Mr. Right by Sarah Morgan-Thaler.
And today we are so excited to introduce the writing duo Christina Hobbs and Lauren Billings. You may know them as Christina Lauren. They're a Bookmarks favorite. We always hear from our customers who come in, oh, I just love Christina Lauren. Do you have more of their books? Can you recommend more things like their books? So many people have recommended On Honeymooners, Twice in a Blue Moon, The Honey Don't List. And we are so excited to read In a Holidaze. If you haven't read it already, get your copy. It is perfect timing for the holiday season. It is fun. It is joyful. We're huge fans, and we're so excited to hear from the friends of Christina Lauren. We are thrilled to hear that one of Bookmark's friends is also a friend of Christina Lauren. So we're welcoming back Renee Adia back to Bookmarks. Renee was here just last month for Teen Toba with her YA book, The Damned, and she's also been at our festival before too. So thank you to all four of you, Sarah, Christina, Lauren, and Renee, for spending happy hour with us. If you would like to ask a question to any of our four author friends, you can use the Ask a Question button, which is right at the bottom of your screen. It says Ask a Question. You'll click that, a box will pop up. You'll put in your question, and then it will pop up on Sarah's screen. Super handy and easy. So Sarah will take care of you all. All right, back to you, Sarah. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, ladies. All right, so now I am super excited to bring on the authors of the hour. So here is first Christina. It's like a game show, right? It's like first Christina. Hello.
Hi.
And now here's Lauren.
Yay! Here I am.
I want to play like dun dun dun.
I know.
Dun, dun, and have you like come down. All right, and now here is Renee. She,
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so
Renee.
All right.
Oh,
Here we
there she is.
Yay!
We're all here.
Technology.
Wonderful. And I, again, everyone, we're talking about in a Holidaze, and I told the ladies earlier when we were in the green room that they looked amazing. I am wearing a signature shirt because
Yay!
this book, if you haven't read it yet, takes place in Park City.
I don't have ours, but I have this. I knew you would have that one.
I love it. As it happens, my family, this is why I read this last week during all the stress of the election, and it was honestly my saving grace. And my family took a family vacation to Park City at Christmas years ago.
Oh,
and it was my brother's. I know. And so I thought, oh my God, it's like these women have written not really mine, because May in it is not exactly me, but it was definitely full of all that sort of family craziness during the holidays and during a vacation together when you're all in olden days. Is that what we call them now? In olden days, when everyone in your family would be put into one house and you'd have to sort of like, get on with each other. So This book was so much fun to read, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more later, the premise of it, which I'm going to have you guys explain later. But first, to get us started, I want to see how all this like a Kevin Bacon game, how everyone's connected here. So would you ladies mind telling us how Christina and Lo, how you met first, and then tell me how you met Renee, and so that way we can get how everyone's friends.
Okay. So, hi, I am Lauren. I am the taller half of Christina Lauren. We met in 2009 when we were both writing fan fiction online and reading each other's stories. And I put on a panel at San Diego Comic-Con for fan works and fan art, and Christina had a really big fic at the time. So I invited her to come out, and that's how we met. We met in person in the summer of 2009, and we just hit it off. And we decided to try writing a little short story together, and it was so much fun. We decided to start writing books together. And I feel like, is that how we met Renee too, at Comic-Con, or did we meet at Y'all Fest?
I think we met at Y'all Fest or RT in Vegas. I just remember, like, if you ever meet Renee, she's like the most beautiful, glamorous. Like, I remember at RT, she had like this long, like, coat, and it would just like trail behind her and just like flap wherever she went, and she's just like beautiful. And
yeah.
I think that's where it was at RT.
She's
Vegas.
a vision with the glittery gold eyes.
Glitter,
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to take a minute because this is probably going to really embarrass Christina and Lauren, but I don't care. But I've been such a huge fan of their books since and actually their work since the fan fiction days. When seriously, it was surreal to meet them, and then surreal to find out that they are exactly, I mean, this sounds so cliche, but they're exactly as wonderful as you think they are. If you're reading their books, the way that they write these amazing female friendships, the way that they write these women who are multidimensional, funny and deep, and just completely irreverent and wonderful. It's them. It's absolutely them, and they are a delight to be around. I have so many. I mean, even across the years, we've had so many really, really fun stories. One night in Vegas with Cressley Cole, especially. Always.
Oh my God! We will never speak of that night.
Was this a night I wasn't there? This is when I wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
That was the next day. I came slowly stumbling out of my room.
You were really missed. You were really missed. And their books too, every single one of them, because I've been reading since Beautiful Bastard. These are the books that you just tell your significant other, you don't exist for the next 6-7 hours. I'm with my favorite beverage. It may or may not be a bottle of wine, just saying. I'm gonna be gone. This is my treat to myself. And it's just, I have so much admiration for these amazing ladies. And I'm so honored to be here to talk about In a Holidaze and all of their ridiculously huge backlist that is fantastic and exactly what everybody needs during a pandemic.
Wow, you are a hype
so
woman. We are going to take you everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
That was the self speech of the century there. That was fantastic.
I know.
And
it's very easy when you mean it wholeheartedly. It's very easy.
Clearly, I am going to the wrong conferences.
Conferences.
I have none of these.
What are conferences?
None of
I
these
know.
Las Vegas stories, but I welcome them. I welcome the Las Vegas stories. My God.
I never thought I would miss
amazing.
RT Vegas, and I would take RT Vegas in a heartbeat now. I missed
At
it.
the Rio.
Oh, even at the Rio.
Oh my God, the Rio. I remember when I was rooming with another author, there was legit a stain on the floor that was the size and shape of a body. I'm just saying.
I'm sure. I'm sure. That tracks.
That needs to be the next book that you like a co-writing of 3, It could be Christina, Lauren, and Renee, and you could write this a thriller. You could go into this romance thriller type subgenre.
Can we do
I would buy it.
We have vampires in it? Oh my God.
I was going to say vampires.
I know, exactly.
It's writing itself right now in our heads.
I know. Maybe Renee is our middle name.
God.
It's Christina Renee Lauren. You don't know.
That is a great name.
We're so fancy.
See, this right here is an example of how important our writing communities are. I'm saying this as a writer and an author. Don't you agree? I think this pandemic I'm an introvert. I really am. I love being alone. I'll be alone all day long, and I'll nestle into it, and it's fantastic. But this pandemic has proven to me that I need this right here. I need this in real life at conferences and workshops and things that we do together. Even just meeting up with your friends, groups of other authors at someone's house just to hang out and have tea. I miss that so much.
Yeah.
I need that. And the stories you're telling right now and this friendship this 4-score friendship that we've now made here is exactly why, is that we need to be connected as a community.
Yeah.
How else? You never would have met and started writing all these fantastic books together.
I know. It's crazy.
Well, sorry. It's fixed.
No,
it's
you're
fixed.
back. I filled it up, so it's back. So now, I know everyone's here too to talk about this, and I promise that we're gonna I will go off and have just girlfriend talk for the entire hour. But I know
That's
people
fine.
want to hear about this.
That works.
Will one of you give a little mini synopsis? And I know we as authors almost like dread doing this. At least I do. I kind of dread it. But it is so interesting to hear how the authors put their book into a capsule, right? That's really interesting to readers to hear. So will one of you give a little mini summary, and then I swear I won't make you do any more painful like summarizing, just for our audience.
Look at Mo and I looking at each other like, are you doing it?
I mean, I'm happy to do it. I think one thing that's been funny though is I feel like we've done a number of these book events, and I've gotten progressively worse at pitching the book. So like this could be the worst one ever. Okay, so in A Holidaze, the main character is Malin Jones. She is kind of stalled in life. She hates her job. She's still living with her parents. The one thing she has every year is the trip to this Park City, Utah cabin with her chosen family, her favorite people in the world. And it is her favorite traditions, her favorite holiday, her favorite place, her favorite people. And she has been in love with one of the members of this group of people, this guy, Andrew, forever. So at the opening of the book, she wakes up and she has gotten a little drunk the night before and ended up making out with Theo, who is Andrew's brother. So she finds out that they're going to sell the cabin. She's hooked up with the wrong brother. She hates her job. She hates her life. She's sort of in this turmoil, and she asks the universe to show her what would make her happy. And the next thing she knows, they're getting hit by a big truck, and she wakes up back on the airplane at the beginning of the holiday to sort of figure out what will make her happy. So that's the premise of the book. That wasn't so bad.
That was good.
Okay.
That was fantastic.
I was like, woo!
I know. I don't want to hear. That was really good. And one of the things I wanted to bring up and talk about, because it's one of my favorite rom-com movies, and you don't know this about me because we've just met here, but I am a rom-com movie fanatic. Like, I love them. And so Groundhog Day was that. It's very much like that. And so if you're a reader and you love Groundhog Day, and it's Andie MacDowell, who doesn't love it, you're going to love this book. And it is a fresh take on it, though. So was that an inspiration, or was that no? Or
It is to a point, but I think another one was, I can't remember if we were together or what, but if you've ever seen the movie Happy Death Day, which is like the smartest dark comedy. It's about this girl. There's like she's college age. There's like a murderer around, and somebody kills her, and then she wakes up the next morning. It's her birthday, and she has to figure out who the killer is, and she just keeps like dying and coming back and dying and coming back. So it was a little bit of that to kind of, and it's a Christmas book, but it's really, holiday book, but it's really just like a Christina Lauren book with this kind of dark, funny, twisted way of, getting her back to the start again.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was so well done. So witty and interesting, and May doesn't come off at all dark or like it was like, oh my God, I would do that. I would think that. I would be in that moment thinking, oh my God, I have to explain my whole thing again to Benny. Benny is one of the house guests with the family, and that she trusts, and she goes and she talks to him. But that idea of having to like explain yourself over and over again and trying to get smarter with each retelling is what made this so refreshing and interesting. And I was totally in, and I loved it. I thought it was brilliantly done, and it's Holidaze. And it's like at the beginning, I listened to the audiobook of this, and at the very beginning there's Christmas music, and so it was like from Hello.
Yeah,
Sarah
in the mood. That's awesome.
Right there in it. You did what?
Oh, I need to listen to the audiobook. I'm bad about audiobooks. And everybody keeps saying they're so fun. And I could see this book being so fun to listen to on audiobook, especially if you're saying like the beginning, like Christmas music and everything. Oh, that would be so fun.
Yeah, the narrator is Patty Murin, and Patty Murin was on Frozen Broadway. So, and she also did the narration for the Honey Don't List, and she's just amazing.
She is
so great.
I'll have to.
So she's one of those narrators who like makes the book better. You know what I mean? Just by her like voice acting and skills, like she actually improves the material, which is just pretty cool. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I also wanted to talk a little bit, and this might be a little bit crafty of a question, and I hope that's okay. But I know, no, not like crafty. Oh, I see low. Like, what do you mean by crafty? But I mean like craft. I know. Not
I
like,
thought you said classy.
more,
I was like, I think classy questions are okay. Okay, go ahead.
no, crafty is in writing
Yeah.
crafty. Like right now, I feel like there is this reader calling for romance and YA, Renee. You know, it's crossing all genres, and I feel like the genres are now being almost like we don't need them anymore, you know? Like I feel like why are we doing genres still? Why are we still having like this is YA and this is romance and this is literary fiction when they all seem to be converging and readers are right, you know, they're reading across it, and not just across it, they want their literature to be a blend of all, right?
Right.
And so I wanted to I know this is a little bit intense for readers, and I hope you don't mind, but I'm curious as sitting in on this to hear your opinion. Like, what do you think about the genres? Should we keep them or should we and I know the booksellers are like, no, those are our shelves.
No, but this is the thing. So writers should not worry about genre. Okay. So like when you sit down to write a book, you shouldn't sit down and say, I want to write a book that will go on XYZ shelf. That is the concern of the industry. The reason they have genres is because they have to figure out where to put it in the store, in the library, how they file it, and what the metadata tags they use on their websites. But I think when it comes to us for writing, for Christina and I, we think about the story we want to tell. We think about who our audience is. We think about what is our brand, because once you have a backlist, you have to think about like what brand you've built, right? You don't want to we're not going to like do something completely crazy. But I think if you are inspired to write a story and it's different than anything you've ever done, you should absolutely do it. Worry about the genre later. That's someone else's job. That's not our job.
I completely agree. And I actually I have like soapboxes when it comes to this, because I write YA romance. It's romance and fantasy. It's historical. It's a little bit of everything. I like to, obviously, I think all of us do. We like to read, write what we like to read. And I often find it interesting. Oh, thanks, Boo. Interesting how, again, how sort of like the vestiges of puritanical thoughts are still like deeply embedded in the way we see books, the way we see entertainment. Because I would be talking with people and they would be like, oh, you know, how racy is this? Is it a fade to black sort of a situation? Are they kissing? And I think, you know, as somebody who read books that my parents probably wouldn't have wanted me to read as a teenager, I think it turned out okay. And the other thing is too, that we don't really have the same pushback when it comes to violence. Like you can have kids, YA, you know, books, you have kids murdering each other for sport, like in Hunger Games, in really violent fashion. But then the second you have a healthy consensual sex scene on the page, it's considered too much. Mm-hmm. And I really, I like to push back against that. And the reason I like to push back against that is I needed that when I was in high school. I needed to see healthy interactions with healthy, informed consent, with talk about condoms, talk about, like, I needed to have these things in our books, and I didn't need them to be things that I thought were forbidden. Because I think putting that sort of label of forbidden across a healthy love story, which is what Lo and Christina write, they're so wonderful about this. These are healthy, wonderful engagements of, you know, the celebration of the body, the celebration of the mind, the celebration of connection. And I tend to think, if I have, you know, a 16, 17-year-old that I know is really an avid reader, has a very, you know, reads widely across genres, and they're like, can I read this book? I'm like, you know, well, I'm not your parent, but if you were my kid, I probably wouldn't object to that, because like, again, we need to have these conversations about healthy sex scenes with teenagers. And I don't think it's appropriate to say that book is not for you because you shouldn't be having sex. Because the reality is teenagers are having sex. And I really think it's important to, so I have one soapbox. So that's why I think that I don't necessarily
I love it.
The labels, because I would have been reading, if I had access to Christina Lauren books when I was a teenager, I would have been reading the hell out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're totally right too. It's this like, I would much rather my daughter read it on a book, like in a book showing a healthy relationship and a woman who knows what she should expect out of a relationship and stuff than finding, you know, seeing something in a movie or, you know, I had kids at my school all the time that the parents would say, is there sex in this book? And I would say, no, but there's murder, you know, and they would be like, but is there sex?
Yeah.
So we don't like weigh them the same way in this society.
Yes.
Oh my God. I'm like, I'm in the congregation, like, preach, sister, preach.
Yeah.
Honestly, my last book, Marilla of Green Gables, I had so many people who wrote me privately and said, you sexualized Marilla. How did, like, that just broke our hearts. And I'm like, really? Like, really? We can't talk, like, these are things that need to be talked about. These are things that, you know, growing up, like you all have said, they were places, books were places that I could go and safely engage in sexual conversations and learn things in a healthy way, and then be able to process it for myself without an outside source or society or my friends or any other opinions tainting whatever I was trying to come to my own understanding about. And that, I feel like literature is the only place that young people coming up can actually get that in all senses. And to Disneyify, that's not even a word. I know that's not a word, but to Disneyify all of our characters, that's just, I don't think that creates a healthy place for the generations coming up. I mean, do you all agree? Because then they come up thinking that everything is going to be either Disney or porn. And again, it's back to that, what you were saying, Renee, that it's back to that, the angel or the whore. And that is not what women are. That's not what we should be categorized in a genre either, as an angel or a whore. Like, that is not how it works. So I
definitely need to read your book, because, like, I feel like, talking specifically to what you've written, I remember one of the things that makes Marilla such an amazing character in Anne of Green Gables, the dynamic between her and Anne, especially later on when things get real with Gilbert. Like, she's learning from the lessons that Marilla experienced with John Blythe. His name is John Blythe, right? Is it, like, I think, right? Like, Gilbert's father. Yeah. And that is such a quintessential part of who Marilla is and how she sees the world. Come on, people. Come on. You want Marilla to be a nun? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people do, but that's something also that I loved in a Holidaze, is that it's a holiday book, it's a family book, and Maylin is is very sexually forward with what she's going through, and yet it's not dirty and it's not salacious, and it makes you laugh and it makes you say, oh gosh, I remember doing that. And let me tell everyone out there, I remember doing everything in this book. So, you know.
Did you almost
Mom,
suffocate someone in a sleeping bag?
You know what? I might not have gone that far, but I came close with some army blankets of my father's. No, my husband is somewhere going, Sarah, stop.
Shut up.
But I know. I've known my husband since we were 17. So when I say that, yeah, and like but these are the kind of reads that moms and daughters, right? I think this is how you all, I don't know if you consciously thought this, but maybe it's just subconscious and it's just like a benefit, but moms and daughters can read these things about these things together.
Yeah.
And then have conversations and feel
We've
safe
had a
in
lot
doing
of that in line. Like, I think in some countries, it's so much more, and I'm sure Renee has seen this too. In some countries, it's so much more common to see mothers and daughters together in signing lines. Like in Brazil, we had so many women brought their daughters with them and were like, I want her to read this because I want her to understand what it is to advocate for herself in all places in her life, both in work and also in the bedroom. And so I think that's, great. And I love the idea of like young men learning what it is to get consent and to, what are these conversations that they can have. So I don't have any problem with younger people reading them. I mean, obviously I wouldn't want like a 12-year-old reading Beautiful Bastard, but I don't think we're writing anything, I think I have a 14-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. And whenever they watch shows that feel a little too mature for them sexually, I think I just try, and this is true for books too, I just try and remind them like high school, like sexual exploration is not what you see on television. And so that's why I appreciate when YA authors are writing that really realistically, because you don't have like Damon Salvador in your high school. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't.
So let's be clear.
And and I think that those expectations can be set by yes, we do wish Katie. I mean, I think those expectations can be set by authors. Like Judy Blume wrote Forever. Do you guys remember? Like when I'm older than everybody here, but when that book came out, we all read it. We were all just like, what is this book? Like she's writing about sex, and those were like real honest conversations, and that's where we can do that in books.
Well, and just like Renee said, like Lo's daughter, we were watching Vampire Diaries together, and if Lo would have told her you can't watch that, she would just want to watch it more. So it was great watching her watch it, and then she would like look to Lo and she would explain to her, FYI, they don't have parties that look like that in normal high schools, and FYI, the boys not like that. And so it was great to see her sort of like explain that to her, and she was like listening so like attentively, and it was great.
That's awesome. I remember my dad when we were teenagers, he would watch Dawson's Creek with us for the same reason. And I really appreciate these shows. I love it. Do you guys see that Dawson's Creek, the whole thing's on Netflix now?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I feel like you need to watch it. I feel like you need to watch it.
They're great. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I feel like you need to watch it. But it's definitely a moment in time. And I remember like watching, and that's a memory I have that's really a favorable memory of my childhood doing something with my dad that probably like most teenagers would be like, ew, you watched that with your dad, but I really appreciated it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
I know.
I love that it was your dad, especially.
He knew the guy who played, I think it was Dawson's dad.
Okay.
It's weird. Like he went to high school with this guy, and that was the reason why he was like, watch the show. And then
that's like, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I swear Renee knows everybody because you've also been in an episode of Walking Dead.
It's not me.
Oh my God.
I'm like the Kevin Bacon in all of this, right? So like my husband knows the producer on The Walking Dead. And that's how we got to be on The Walking Dead. And it's good fun. What you really should be saying is Renee knows how to exploit her connections. There we go.
That is a good skill to have.
Wow. So wait, are you, Renee, just because I'm getting to know everyone still, so you're a North Carolina girl through and through, right?
More
so born, raised, everything?
I was born here, and then we moved when I was 6 weeks old to South Korea. My mother is Korean, so we lived in Seoul for a couple of years, and then we moved back to the U.S., and we were in Texas for like a blip. We were there for 9 months. We were in a really, really small town in Texas. My mother couldn't deal because one day she saw my little sister playing with a scorpion. So she was like, we're out of here. And so we went back to North Carolina. All my dad's family is from North and South Carolina. And then I went to school at Chapel Hill. So I'm pretty, my blood bleeds pretty Carolina blue. So yeah.
That was awesome.
And then Christina, you are in
Utah.
Utah.
Yep.
And Lo, you're in California.
Correct.
Do I have all that?
Yep.
You do. Yep.
That right.
I'm in
Now,
California.
have you all always lived in those locations? 'Cause, I mean, this is a vast network
Spread.
of, I mean,
Yes.
California culture versus Utah culture versus definitely North Carolina culture.
So I grew up
are
in
you all
Berkeley.
from?
Yeah, I grew up in
Okay.
Northern California,
Berkeley?
and then I went to college in Minnesota, and I stayed there for 2 years. So I was in Minnesota for 6 years total in the Twin Cities. And then I came back to graduate school in Irvine at UC Irvine. And so I've just been in Orange County ever since. Yeah.
And I have lived here most of my life. I was born in Nevada, and then we lived in San Diego for a while because my dad was in the Navy. And then we moved to Utah, and I've been here since I was like in kindergarten or something. Is funny. And I always have to tell everybody I'm not Mormon because that's like the first thing they ask me. It's like, oh, are you Mormon? And I go, no, but I have family who are, but I am not.
I love this career because it connects people from so many different parts.
Yeah.
Not just the country, but the world. And then another gift of this career is it's taken me to places I'd never been before. I mean, career is the reason I first went into Utah. And I remember the first time I got off the plane in Salt Lake City. It is such a beautiful state. Like just
It
like
is.
every time you look when you like
Yeah.
it's like, holy shit. This is like people wake up every day. And I was talking to an Uber driver because I'm terrible with directions. The cardinal directions where have you ever had somebody tell you like, oh, just go south down the street? I'm like, what? Like, I'm like, south is
in North Carolina, they're like, go past the Piggly Wiggly for 5 minutes and then make a left at the bunny hop, and you're like,
there. Yeah. But I remember they told me that it was really easy to do cardinal directions in Salt Lake City because you are just looking at the mountains. You're like in relation to the mountains. I was like, oh, suddenly that makes sense. I won't do that back home, but this makes sense here.
Yeah, it's the mountains or the Salt Lake.
Yeah. Your addresses are so weird though, because the street addresses are like 100 north, 500 east or something. And it's just like,
but they make sense because they're coordinates. So it's like breaking the map into a grid. And that's how you find stuff instead of like, you know, Carolina Avenue or something. It's like, where's that? I don't know where that's at.
That's all across North and South Carolina. And you're not talking about Carolina Avenue East, Carolina Avenue North, you know, everywhere. Carolina Lane.
I would like to end up in California at some point, though. That's where I would like to be.
oh wow,
I'm in favor of this.
that almost sounded like the song, you know, because California is the place you want to be. That's what I heard when you said that. I was like, that's like the song. But I actually spent some time in Salt Lake City. My husband did a children's ortho like a rotation in Salt Lake City at the Children's Hospital there. And so I went and visited him, and he was there for 4 months. And I went and visited him, and I thought it was just, it reminded me of Germany. My dad was a career Army officer, and so I kind of was a gypsy child and went all over. But it reminded me a lot of Germany, the smells and the feel of Salt Lake City. And that, like, again, I swear I'm not saying everything to plug your book, but again,
That's okay.
if you need to travel, I am desperate to go overseas. I miss it. And if you're needing to travel, but you can't because of COVID, Salt Lake City, Park City feels so much like Germany. You can get it all and have, holiday songs.
You can go to Park City in Germany in one book.
It feels like it, all of it. This is, more reasons everyone needs to buy this book is because these are Sarah's connections to it. So
absolutely.
And Salt Lake City is absolutely beautiful.
It is so beautiful. And actually, this is something I think that Lo and Christina do so well in all of their books. They have, and it's what I love to do with my books too. So therefore, it's what I love to read. I love it when authors take the time to make their settings almost like a character. And
you do such a good job with setting, Renee.
Especially
seriously,
these.
yeah. They're so atmospheric. If you guys haven't read these, the first one is The Beautiful, and then there's The Damned, and they're just gorgeous.
And I listened to The Beautiful on audiobook, and it's so amazing because there's French and accents, and it's just, it's like, I mean, it sounds silly to say it's like watching a movie, but it reminded me of like listening to an old radio show, and I was like, you know, hearing the voices are so good, and it's
Look
so
at that
beautiful.
cover too. Show the cover again.
it's a good one. It's a good
I'm
one.
so glad you have that.
Beautiful.
I don't have a copy, so I would be holding both of them. But so I'm glad you guys have that. So,
And it's
Yeah.
vampires. Like,
I have the ebook.
All I have to do is like, all anybody has to do is tell me they're writing vampires, and I will definitely read the hell out of their book. I feel like within a Holidaze, I have never done any sort of like, you know, the U.S. has some really beautiful vistas and beautiful places to go for like winter vacations. You're talking like Breckenridge, you're talking about Vail, you're talking about all these different things. And I've heard of Park City, but this was the first time I feel like I got to experience it through y'all's lens. And I really now want to go see it because I'm like, well, if it's anything like the rest of Utah, it's got to be freaking gorgeous. And I love how wonderfully it's this perfect backdrop to this sort of like beautifully like zany story that you have going on here, and it makes it believable because there's an element of magic to what you guys are doing. It's a little bit of magical realism, even when you like if you did a throwback to Groundhog's Day or something like that. But this winter wonderland really lends itself to that, and I mean, like I even think back to some of your other books, and I can't remember which title it was, but the book with Ansel and Mia.
That Sweet Filthy Boy.
Yeah, the one that takes place in Paris. It's the same thing. I felt completely transported to Paris, and I totally agree with what you said, Sarah. I think that if you're looking for books that are beautiful and escapist and yet still grounded and funny, I mean, In a Holidaze it was exactly what I needed to read, and that's the case with all the books that you write. And I would really love to know, because y'all are so prolific, what has changed about your dynamic in writing together over the years? Because In a Holidaze is what your 18th book? 18th book? Which
26th.
Holy shit! I'm like 10 books behind. Okay. But so y'all have gone through a lot of like metamorphosis, because I remember with each of my books, I learn a new lesson, and I feel like even though I have a routine, aspects of that routine change with each book. They adapt to the needs of that book. They also adapt to a skill set I may have learned, because I feel like every book we write, it teaches us something new. What have y'all found over the years in collaborating together, and especially in collaborating with each other, because y'all write so many books a year? How are you navigating this? Are you planning one book as you're editing another? I would love to know.
Usually we're always doing at least 2 things at once. It's a little slower right now because our schedule, our publisher is slowing us down a little bit, but even then we still are like working on the Rumi script and have other things going. So I don't know what has changed, Lo. I think I
think a lot of it is there have been things about our process that felt really structured early on that we've kind of let go a little bit. Like we used to think that there was a way to outline together and then a way to draft. And what we found about halfway through to this point is that we don't have to do every book the same. Like sometimes the books that we write, we're going to outline it totally differently. We're going to draft it totally differently. But at the end, if we get a book, it's still a Christina Lauren book. It's still going to feel like ours. And so I do think sometimes, we just have to be more fluid in our process. I think we lost Sarah, but we just have to be more fluid. Like the funniest thing for me is when we sit down to outline a book and we're like, did we lose everybody? Are we still here?
No, I think what may have happened is, because I think everything's being fed through. Yeah.
Okay. We're still here. Okay, good. Is when we sit down to outline it and we're like, we don't know how to write a book anymore. Like every single time we're like, how does one make a book happen? So I think we've just learned to be more fluid in the process. you know.
And also, Lo will say sometimes that early on, I think the books come faster because it's sort of the like easier ideas or the like low hanging fruit. And then later, you really have to work to fill up that well and get new ideas and keep things fresh. And we've written so many books together that it's just harder. And brains don't really care about schedules, so or pandemics or so we've had to be, I think, a little bit more forgiving of ourselves.
So somebody has asked, Beth from Bookmarks has asked, can we each recommend a recent favorite romance novel? That's a great question. I would love to know what you guys have been reading.
I have two, and they're both YA, but do not let that deter you. These books are brilliantly and beautifully written, and the romance in them is amazing. Sabaa Tahir's last book in her Ember Quartet, Sky Beyond the Storm. I have been so privileged to watch as she has written these books because she's one of my dearest friends, and we also beta read for each other. And this last book is such a beautiful heartbreaker. And then also Roshni Chakshi's The Silvered Serpents. It's got this amazing ensemble cast that almost has the feel of The Italian Job. But then it takes place too in this beautiful, magical, historical setting of, Paris during the exposition, the World Exposition I believe it's 1888, so the latter part of the 19th century. And if you liked my books, you'll love that book. And then obviously, I'm a huge fan of Christina Lauren, and I'm a huge fan of McLean. These books, I just think, and I'm so effing excited about Bridgerton on Netflix. Because I'm a friend fan. So and
it
looks
so good.
So good. I'm so excited. And for anybody who hasn't read these books, Netflix and Shonda Rhimes are doing this amazing adaptation of Julia Quinn's Bridgerton books, which are Regency romance. But because it's done with Shonda, it's got this wonderfully inclusive cast that just like every time I see it, I feel like this beautiful like warmth blooming behind my heart. I'm like, yes. So, and that series is supposed to release on Netflix on Christmas Day. And I know what I'm going to be doing on Christmas Day. So,
oh, yes.
Same. Let's see. So if you're looking for a book to kind of just
Am I
tear
back?
through. Oh,
yes,
can you hear me?
I can see you.
Okay. The Roommate by Rosie Dannon is just so fun.
No, this is great.
Okay. And then if you really, the Bridgerton, I'm so excited to watch that. And then, is this a series that was just picked up, Renee?
No, it's The Wrath in the Dawn.
The Wrath in the Dawn. Okay. So yay! I cannot wait to see that when that happens. Obviously, we know Hollywood is Hollywood right now.
They're fickle. They're wonderfully fickle. Like it is what it is. I mean, I can't wait to see what y'all are doing with Roomies. And I mean, working with this amazing team, what I really like is they have one of the producers is a woman, and from the get-go, she has been championing the idea of getting, women screenwriters, women producers, women directors, and she is specifically looking at women of color. And it's just very exciting. Even in the last 5-6 years, I don't know if this has been the case for y'all too, the way this narrative is shifting and the way the conversation is changing around, the need for more inclusivity. It's such a beacon of hope for me, especially given the last 4 years and what we've had to deal with. These sort of I don't know if it's right to say this, but I just feel like it's shine a light on something that I think a lot of people have thought and felt for a very long time and have just needed to get everybody else on board with. And I think that's the sick, sad truth of what's happened over the course of the last couple of years. So.
I think you're right. Well, I am super happy for you, and I'm super happy for us fans of the series. Yes. And so just, I know it's hard to release information when there's distance between updates, but keep your fans posted.
I will. And I also think, I don't know if this is the case for y'all too, but this year is hard too. It's hard to get excited about things, and it's hard to feel comfortable being buy my book. It's hard to get. I know that y'all have books. There are multiple books that are coming out at any given stretch of 12, 14 months, and it's just difficult. You just feel so often that you just need to take a step back and is this appropriate? And I think what we should just do is we should just be pimping out each other's books, because I have such an easier time telling people to buy Christina Lauren books. And I wrote this thing. I wrote this thing. Yeah, maybe you want to read it. Sure.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It's easier to like shove other people's books in the hands. But that's one of the reasons why I love the book community so much, is that it's like this sort of reverberating fangirl circle, you know, and we're all just pimping each other, because it really is a rising tide. Like Christina always says, books aren't cars. You don't buy one every 10 years. You buy books like, you know, as many books as you can possibly keep on a shelf, even more than that. So I love the community.
I do too.
I agree.
Yep. All right. Are there
So
any
now,
more questions?
we only have a few minutes left. And I'm sorry, the internet went and then it came back. So I'm glad that I'm able to come back in and do this last little roundup with you all. But did you all get a chance to talk about what you're each working on next?
Oh, not yet.
Oh, that's good. Go for it, Renee.
No?
Oh, okay.
Not yet?
So,
Because we need to throw the little lure out and let people know.
Absolutely. So this is meant to be a big spoiler, so I'm going to try to keep details sort of under wraps. But I'm working on the third book in the Beautiful series. Yes, it's not over. And I love this next. And I actually took a lot of nods from my favorite romance series in writing this, from what Lo and Christina do, to Sarah McLean, to Julia Quinn, where you have a series of books that are sort of detailed around this community, basically. And there's a narrative that's like superimposed across all of it. And then you have these micro narratives that are in each book and sort of gently unspool. And so you can read any book out of the series out of order, but then one hopes you go in, because we are in the business of selling books, and you say, oh my gosh, I love these characters so much. I love the world so much. Let me see what else is in this world. So the next sort of love story that I'm writing, I really, really am having a great time. And it's fulfilling a challenge I issued to myself at the beginning of my career. I wanted to write a marriage of convenience, like a marriage where like it had to happen, and two people who didn't want to get married at all. And that's tricky, because when you're writing YA, you need to be really careful with how you spin this narrative. And I think I've got it, and it's really fun.
When is that one out?
That one is out, I think,
Yay!
next fall, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure though, because you know, the quarantine.
Yeah. Yep.
Fantastic.
So we have a book out in May called The Soulmate Equation. The spin on that is basically like, what if science could find your soulmate through your DNA? And it turns out that you already know them and definitely think they're not your soulmates. We love this book so much. And then do you want to say what we're working on though?
Right now we are, so that the Soulmate Equation is done. The arcs of that are being made, and the cover is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we're writing right now is basically like, it's a kind of a modern day Romancing the Stone, but it takes place in the Utah desert. So it's going to be super fun. And we have had the most fun and the most trouble outlining this book.
Because it's a challenge.
It is
We're
a challenge.
challenging ourselves.
It's much more action-y. Like it's almost like if you took
God.
like Indiana Jones and put more romance in it. And yeah, so it'll be fun though.
I need a sign that says sold. Indiana Jones by
Oh my God.
Romancing
the Stone.
It's what we all wanted to see actually happen with Harrison Ford.
But it's a little gender swapped. So
yeah, so she's the cowgirl and he's
That's
the city boy, and yeah.
Oh,
Yep. Oh, it's fun. I'm excited.
that sounds amazing. Oh, wow. I'm excited too now. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, now one more question. What are your holiday plans in this COVID business? What is everyone, speaking of holidays, what are your plans?
I'm gonna eat everything in sight. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So, because I'm hoping we get to see some family members, but I am very cognizant of the fact that we do not have collectively as a country our shit together. So what we're doing right now is we're suffering in this moment so that in the hopes that we will have everybody with us next year. So
Yes, that is the plan. We are trying to figure out if we can go to Utah to see Christina for Thanksgiving, but probably not. We'll see. But I think we're going to decorate for Christmas this weekend. I think we're going to put up the tree and do all of that because why not? Like, make it pretty, make it sparkly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, why not?
I already have Christmas lights on outside. I don't have my Christmas tree yet, but I have my lights up.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
There'll
This
be
past weekend when the news broke, I just went all kinds of holiday in our house. I was like, Christmas came early. Christmas. So tinsel went up, sparkles. I was like twirling. So yeah, no, definitely it is hit here too. And like I said, this was my perfect read last week. I finished it right this past weekend. And I know everyone out there who loves your books already has eaten this up and they're going to, love it and pass it on to all their friends and give it as gifts. And I also, talking to the subject we were on earlier about genre, I also really wanted you to answer that, and you answered it perfectly. For people who have said to me, well, I don't know, I've never really read romance. Come on, now's the time. This is amazing.
The water's
like we
warm.
Said, it's a story. It has nothing to do with the genre. Yes, you want this. I am telling you, you want this. It is exactly what I needed. So, yes, go out and get it from your local independent bookstore, wherever they may be. And I'm so grateful that I got to sit here and chat with you three. This was so much fun. And I know that all of our readers who are on right now live and who will watch this later on will enjoy hearing you guys talk about, we talked about some like deep things and then some really light things. So clearly you're my kind of girls because that's the way I roll all the time. I'll go from like, what do you think the meaning of life is to, what do we want some popcorn right now? What's your favorite popcorn? So yeah, I think we would all need to rendezvous at a conference.
Oh,
that
would
be super fun. Oh my God. Y'all are talking about that I have never been able to play
Someday we'll get them back.
So I would love that. And meanwhile, please be healthy. Yes.
You too. Please
be healthy, be safe, and I hope everyone goes out and buys all your books.
And yours.
I'm telling them
and yours.
So
just buy all the books.
Y'all, one day.
Thank you all.
Everybody here a big hug. And
Happy holidays.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Thank you again. And for everyone who's still on, it's just me now. I wanted to say goodbye to our authors. How wonderful were they? So much fun. I've never met them before, by the way, before 5 minutes before our broadcast started. So that was such a joy for me. And I thoroughly meant what I said. I enjoyed every bit of this book, and I think you will too. Now I want to thank our bookmark folks. You know that I am not only a bookmark friend, I am a family member sitting on the board. So I just want to let you all know that we so appreciate all donations that were given both to attend this and online just in general. And you can still donate and be part of helping our independent bookstore community do what they do best, which is bring literature and good books and events like tonight to you. So just go to their website, www.bookmarksnc.org, and donate. And remember, we are both a bookstore and a nonprofit. Books with Purpose is our purpose. So it's been so much fun. And thank you all for joining, and have a wonderful night.